Hello, welcome to Berkshire Guitar Amplifier Repairs. Stuart Smith with you as always, and we've got a Marshall Origin 50 on the bench. I don't think I've seen this amp before. Maybe I have, anyway, it's certainly not very common. It's in immaculate condition and it's not actually very old. I think he said it was 2 or 3 years old. The fault it's got is you turn it on, it works for about 2 or 3 seconds, then you get a kind of flick sound and the sound disappears. So that's a bit of an odd one really, not quite sure what that will be. So the first thing to do is to just do exactly what I just said and see if it performs for us. So let's do that. So here we go, guitar's plugged in and we are on high output, power's going on, lights on, I can hear a bit of a hum. Obviously not warm yet. No sound at all at the moment. Okay, that came in with a vengeance. That's working okay. Did you hear that? It just went pop! And now there's no sound. Literally nothing. Right, not really sure what that will be. That's a very quick disappearance of the sound there. Things have hardly had time to even get warm. So I think we're going to have to take the amp apart now, get the chassis out and see what we can see. Right, well here we are inside this thing. And yeah, not my favourite sort of amp really, with printed circuit board like this, chips and stuff all mixed up with it. Where do we start with this? I mean, you have to start with some sort of guess about what might be going on. I think what I will do is turn it on, get it powered up and get it into that fault mode, and then just have a little waggle of things and see if we've got some sort of loose connection, dry joint. Then I will change the valves and see if it's a valve issue, just because it's simple to do, and then we'll have to take it from there really. Okay, everything's plugged in, we've got a speaker in, we've got a tone generator in, power's on. The fact that this burst to life when we first tried it might mean it's got some sort of warm-up cutout system, which it comes on after a minute or something, but anyway, let's see what happens. Nothing at the moment. Right, well nothing now that we've got it out of the box. Okay, well it seems to be in the fault mode. I've got the signal going into the effects return, thereby bypassing a lot of the preamp stuff. Have a little waggle around. Lots of relays on this board as well, which I don't like. Well, nothing at all. It seems that when it warms up and goes into that fault mode, it might take a long time to come out of that mode. Oh well, we can do a few tests whilst it's in the fault mode, and in particular we're interested to see if there is any HT floating around. Always a useful thing to have on a valve amp. So here are the power valves here, so we'll just have a little probe around here. That's the bias minus 39. Yeah, we've got HT there, 462 volts, so that's okay. Yeah, we've got HT here, so it's not a lack of HT, that's the issue. Okay, I've just put a couple of bias meters on the output tubes, 1 and 2, and if you look you'll notice there is no current being drawn at all. We've got 463 plate bolts, 463, 464, no current going through the power tube. So that's the issue. For some reason both power tubes are hard off, not drawing any current whatsoever, which is why we've got no sound going through. Now I'm going to have a look at the problem is I might not be able to get the schematic for this amp. It's fairly new, but I don't like the look of this. They've got this trick that Blackstar use here. These couple, see those two power FETs there? Normally Blackstar use those as some kind of a phase splitter arrangement to drive the tube, and I'm wondering if they've done the same thing here. They're quite close to the output tubes there, and they are a couple of power FETs, so we could have an issue there. But anyway, let's well, it depends where those FETs are sitting. They could be sitting in the cathodes of the power tubes. It could be some sort of stupid fancy arrangement of driving the tubes, which I've seen before. And if those FETs are blown, then of course no power will, no current will flow through the tubes. I suspect they've done some sort of arrangement like that. No other reason to have those FETs there. Right, so what do I do here? I think I'll have a quick look to see if the circuit's around. I haven't got much hope about that, to be honest with you. I think I might also, just whilst we're here, try spraying a bit of freezer on those FETs. We know this is a temperature sensitive problem and that it works when it's cold, so wouldn't it be nice if this amp sprang to life when we sprayed a bit of freezer on those FETs? Worth a try, isn't it, don't you reckon? Okay, I've got some freezer spray here. Everything's on, the tone generator's going into effects return, and well, let's see if cooling these down does anything. No, it doesn't seem to. It would be lovely if that suddenly sprang into life, wouldn't it? Now normally you'd expect these valves to be working, because if you take a look, we've got, where are we? That must be pin 5. It's got minus 39 volts on it. Sort of about right, not far off from a bias voltage. 4 is the screen grid, and that's 460 volts. That's okay. 3 is the anode. That's 460 volts. So all these voltages are okay. So with those voltages on that valve there, the only reason it can't be working is because the cathode is not connected, pin 8 is not connected to ground. So if that's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 8, so this is the cathode here, and that would normally be connected to ground on an amp, but I'm just wondering if it's going somehow via these FETs here, so it's not really going to ground. Don't think we can make a lot of progress on here without a schematic now. These FETs are stone cold, which is not surprising because they're not drawing any current. Shame we haven't heard this amp working in this configuration up on the bench. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it off, let it cool completely down, go and see if I can find a schematic, and then turn it on again when it's really cold and see if it comes to life for that 1 second that it did earlier. Okay, well this is interesting. I looked at the schematic, which I actually had on file amazingly, and the cathode of these tubes goes directly to ground. It doesn't go by these FETs. I don't know what that's all about at the moment. I measured the cathode to ground and it was 1 ohm, which is pretty much what it should be. It goes via a 1 ohm resistor to ground. So there was nothing left for me to check. We have the correct bias voltage, we have HT, we have screen grid, and we have ground. That valve has got to work. So I took the valves out and put a pair of Gash EL34s in, and the whole thing's come to life. Well, I can hear it hissing away anyway. Let's see if it actually works. And it hasn't made that popping sound and gone off. Working okay. So what we have, by the looks of it, unless this suddenly dies again on me, is 2 faulty Marshall EL34s. Both of these valves are faulty. Neither are working, which is very strange. Don't understand that at all. So what I'm going to do now is obviously leave it on for 15-20 minutes, make sure it's nice and robust, and then I think it's just a question of 2 new valves. I have no idea why both valves have failed. Makes absolutely no sense to me, and I'm not even sure I've seen a power valve fail like that with all the correct voltages on it and it produces no current whatsoever. Quite rare anyway. And to have 2 go, I mean, sort of would explain why as the valve warms up, dumph, it just stops working. That would explain the heating up problem, but it's a new one on me to see a pair of valves fail like that. Now the bias current's okay on these, it's 24, very hard for you to see this meter, 24 milliamps. I won't bias it now because I've just got a pair of Gash valves in there at the moment. I'll put a new pair of valves in, and then we'll bias it up properly. Where's the bias control? Has it even got one? Probably that. Let's have a twiddle and see if it does it for us. We'll turn. Yeah, that's the bias there. So we won't mess around with that at the moment. We'll wait to get our new pair of valves in. In fact, I think I'll put the new valves in now and then leave it to soak test. Okay, I've got the new valves in and a pair of bias meters on there. Don't know if you can read this. They're not very bright, these Eurotubes meters. I do like them, but they're not very bright. So we've got 26 milliamps there. Let's find out what we're looking for. I'll just do a quick visit to weberbias.com. Weber I think it is. www.tedweber.com. There's a bias calculator on there, very useful little thing. And we're going to put in an EL34, and we're going to put in a plate voltage of 432, like that. And then we're going to press calculate bias, and up it comes with 40 milliamps. So I always bias a little bit cool, so I'm going to put this at about 35, and that will be perfectly okay. Notice one's 30 and one's 34, so there's a 4 milliamp difference between these tubes. That's okay. I wouldn't want much more than that, but you won't hear any difference there whatsoever. See, that's gone down to 33, and this is probably just below 31, so we're only talking a couple of milliamps difference, and that's perfectly acceptable. You don't need to sweat a couple of milliamps when you're biasing. So that's all okay, working. Sounds good. I'm going to leave it on for 15-20 minutes. I'm pretty confident that will be alright. Okay, well, I'm going to call that a wrap. I haven't put the amp back together. I'm just going to leave it on the bench overnight, make doubly sure it turns on in the morning after it's been freezing cold for a while and doesn't exhibit that fault again. Sort of a new one on me, 2 faulty valves. Bad batch at Marshall, I don't know what's gone on there, it's quite a new amp this, but that's what it was. Both valves are faulty. I put a couple of new ones in, biased it up, and the amp works fine now, so fingers crossed that will be the last of his troubles. Sounds like quite a nice amp too, and it's in immaculate condition and not very old. Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed the fault finding process there. There was nothing else it could be apart from the valve, because all the voltages around the valve base were perfectly okay. There you go. I'll catch you on the next video, and thanks as always for watching.